Sound check 1, 2, 3.
Hi, everyone. It is 9:30, so we'll get started as soon as we have quorum, pretty much. Okay, we will get started. This is Planning and Housing Committee meeting number 51 for Wednesday, August 20th. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'll start with the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that Ottawa is located on unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation, whose culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. Il est important de souligner que la ville d'Ottawa se trouve sur un territoire non cédé de la nation algonquienne Anishinaabe, dont la culture et la présence ont enrichi et continuent d'enrichir ces terres. I'll note that simultaneous interpretation is available for this meeting in English and French. We have regrets today from Chair Leeper and Councillor Kelly, and Councillor Curry will be joining us a bit late this morning. I'll ask Kelly to do a roll call.
Councillor Brockington,
Here.
Councillor Curry, Counselor Dudas,
I'm here.
Counselor Johnson,
Here.
Counselor Kavanaugh,
Present.
Counselor Kelly, Counselor Kitts,
Here.
Counselor Lowe,
Here.
Counselor Tierney,
Present.
Counselor Troster,
Here.
Vice Chair, Acting Chair Gower.
Here.
You have quorum.
Thank you. This is a public meeting to consider the proposed comprehensive official plan and zoning bylaw amendments listed as items 4.1 and 4.4 on today's agenda. For the items just mentioned, only those specifically identified in the Planning Act who make oral submissions today or written submissions before the amendments are adopted may appeal the matter to the Ontario Land Tribunal. In addition, the applicant may appeal the matter to the Ontario Land Tribunal if council does not adopt an amendment within 90 days of receipt of the application for a zoning bylaw amendment and 120 days for an official plan amendment. To submit written comments on these amendments prior to their consideration by City Council on August 27th, please email or call the committee or council coordinator. Are there any declarations of interest? Okay, I'm seeing none and none have been filed. Confirmation of minutes. Are the minutes for July 16th, 2025 confirmed?
Confirmed.
Confirmed, thank you. We're going to go through the agenda and see if there's any that we can carry on consent, although there are some items where we have delegations. Item 4.1 is an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for 400 Coventry Road. We have no public delegations registered. Are there any requests from councillors to hold this item? No, okay. We do have representatives from the applicants here, Nico Church, Tamara Nehal, Simon Ethier, and Brian Casagrande is online. If the committee is prepared to carry this item, do any of you wish to speak? Okay, thank you. Is this item carried?
Carried.
Okay, thank you. Item 4.2, zoning bylaw amendment for 47 Beechwood, 12 Douglas, and 5 Springfield. We have delegations registered, so we will hold this item. Item 4.3. Okay. Okay. All right. So going back to the statement I made earlier about, I'll go back to it, about the public hearing for official plan and zoning items. I'll clarify or correct that this is a public meeting to consider the proposed comprehensive official plan and zoning bylaw amendments listed as items 4.1 to 4.4 on today's agenda. So all of those items inclusive. 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, and 4.4. Thank you. Okay, so we're on 4.3, which was a zoning bylaw amendment for 99 Parkdale Avenue. There are no public delegations registered. Are there any requests from committee members to hold this item? Okay, the applicant is represented by Connor Joy. Connor, if the committee is prepared to carry this item, do you wish to speak? Is Connor here or online? Okay.
Good morning, Chair. No, I don't need to speak if committee is ready to carry. That's good news for us.
Okay, thank you, Connor. So is item 4.3 carried? Carried, thank you.
Thank you.
On 4.4, it's the zoning bylaw amendment for 2409 Carlson Avenue. And there are delegations registered, so we will hold this item. And on item 4.5, front-ending report cost increase on the March Road sanitary sewer, Canada North urban expansion area. Are there any requests from councillors to hold this item? No, then can we carry this item, number 4.5? Carried. Thank you. 5.1 is Office of the City Clerk status update on Planning and Housing Committee inquiries and motions. Can we carry that? Carried. And we have 2 IPDs, a delegate report on the Canadian Institute of Planners and Ontario Professional Partners Institute from Councillor Leeper, Chair Leeper, and a Cash and Leo Parkland report. Any requests to lift those items? No? Okay. Then we will go back to item 4.2, which we held. This is a zoning bylaw amendment for 47 Beechwood Avenue, 12 Douglas Avenue, and 5 Springfield Road. Staff have a short presentation prepared, and then we'll hear from our delegations. We have 4 registered delegations, and the applicant will have an opportunity to speak to committee as well and answer our questions. So, Jack Smith, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, members of the committee and the public. My name is Jack Smith, the planner and development review central, and I'm here today to walk you through the proposed zoning bylaw amendment at 47 Beechwood Avenue, 12 Douglas Avenue, and 5 Springfield Road. Next slide, please. The subject lands represent a lot assembly of 3 separate parcels, municipally addressed as 47 Beechwood Avenue, 12 Douglas Avenue, and 5 Springfield Road. The site is an irregularly shaped corner lot and located within the Linden Lee community. It is located on the north side of Beechwood Avenue between Springfield and Douglas. Next slide, please. The subject lands are designated Main Street corridor and located within the inner urban transect and evolving overlay within the official plan. Generally, up to 9 stories is contemplated along the Main Street corridor designation within the inner urban transect, dependent on road width and transition to the surrounding context. Next slide, please. The lands are currently zoned traditional Main Street Subzone 8 or TM8, which permits mid-rise mixed-use buildings up to 20 meters in height. Next slide, please. The proposal seeks to permit an 8-story mixed-use building with 4 commercial units at grade and 123 residential dwelling units. A 3-story podium is provided along Douglas Avenue in the eastern face of the building along Beechwood, and raising to a 6-story podium on the western face of the building along Beechwood Avenue and along Springfield Road. A majority of the building is 7 stories with an 8-story massing at the northwest corner of the site. The proposal includes improvements to the surrounding public realm and rights of way, including a protected westbound bike lane, new 2-meter sidewalks, retention of the existing bus stop on Springfield Road, commercial patios, and landscaped areas and boulevards to support the growth of street trees. Next slide, please. On the topic of tree plantings and greening the site, 8 trees and various shrubs, grasses, and perennial flowers are proposed through the site plan control application. 3 trees are proposed in the rear yard, 3 street trees along the frontage of the building on Beechwood Avenue, and 2 street trees along the Springfield Road frontage. Next slide, please. As a result of the review process, a number of changes have been implemented in the development proposal to align with feedback provided to the applicant, including an at-grade amenity room, which directly interfaces with the outdoor amenity space, the provision of zoning compliant communal amenity space, increased step backs within the rear yard, and the provision of a low-rise podium to provide for adequate transition and separation to the low-rise residential context along Douglas Avenue, increased setbacks from the north-facing units from the property line to provide for greater separation and additional amenity space in the rear of the building, the provision of street trees, increased functionality of the residential waste area by locating it near the rear service lane, adjustments to the commercial units to enhance their usability, the provision of at-grade residential units along Douglas Avenue to provide for a continuation of the ground level residential units along the street, and the implementation of the bike lane along Beechwood Avenue. Next slide, please. The proposal requests to amend the existing TM8 zone to establish site-specific zoning exceptions to permit the proposed development. The site-specific exceptions will address provisions pertaining to reduced rear yard setbacks, reduced setback requirements or step back requirements, increased maximum height and angular plane requirements, reduced parking requirements, and reduced landscape buffer requirements. Next slide, please. In addition to the relief requested to the zoning bylaw through the amendment process, details have also been included to establish a zoning schedule, which will set forth the setback, step back, and height requirements on the subject lands. Other details include the provision of a one-to-one bicycle space parking rate per dwelling unit to enhance active transportation ridership in the area, establishing maximum building heights and permitted projection heights based on the parliamentary view plane from Beechwood Cemetery to ensure the view plane is preserved, and establishing the requirement for non-residential uses at grade along Beechwood Avenue to ensure the site continues to be a functional community hub and business for businesses and services. Next slide, please. Staff recommend approval of the zoning bylaw amendment as the proposed development will provide an increased housing stock, improve the pedestrian realm along Beechwood Avenue corridor, improve active transportation assets within the community, and include ground floor commercial uses which will animate the corridor and contribute to the local economy. The proposal is consistent with the city's official plan, Beechwood Community Design Plan, and applicable urban design guidelines. Next slide, please. That wraps up my presentation to the committee. Thank you, and let us know if there are any questions.
Okay, thank you for walking us through that. We're going to now go to our public delegations. We have 4 delegations registered. Each delegation will have 5 minutes to address the committee, and then committee will have an opportunity to ask questions. And then after that, we'll go to the applicant team. The first delegation registered is Steve Barkhouse, who is online today, I believe.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity. I'll be honest, I was hoping to go last, but I didn't want to repeat what other people are going to be putting forward. I've read the submissions from the other committees and concerned residents and agree with them all, and I'm sure they're going to make a great presentation, so I won't repeat them. But as one of the only 3 adjacent properties to this proposed development, I just wanted to share my perspective. I can see that there was an effort made on the Douglas side of the project that was just mentioned by staff so that it blended better and brought it down. There is, I think, a 5-meter separation on that side. So I can see that there was an effort made there. I'm on Springfield, and the opposite is the case there. There was no effort made. In fact, that's the largest massing and the closest that the building gets. And I'm sure you've heard this argument 1,000 times at committee, but as an owner, we buy the property assuming that the bylaws will be held in force to protect our value. This project will severely impact the use of this property. It will never see sunlight. The tenants that I have in there are ones already put in her notice to leave. And the business that's being run there will be severely impacted and probably will leave as well. So I will leave it at that. I'm hoping that council will appreciate those situations and vote against it.
Thanks very much, Steve, for bringing those concerns. Are there any questions from committee members? Okay, I'm seeing none. Thanks, Steve, for joining us this morning.
Can I just add, sorry to interrupt, may I just add that again, there's only 3 adjacent properties. No one's ever approached me. Now, I do understand that the council had a meeting for the community and it was advertised on social media. And I'm old and I'm not on social media, so I didn't see that announcement. But no one's ever come around. No one's left a notice or a flyer. The only notification I got was from Jack, who's been great, and he knows that I've been trying to pursue this. But it started and then stopped for a very long time. We heard nothing until we got a notice, I think it was 5 or 6 days ago, about this meeting. So yeah, I just don't think there's been due process. I don't think there's been consultation or collaboration with the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Our second speaker this morning is Natalie Carrier from the Vanier BIA. Is Natalie online? Okay, I don't see her in the room and she's not online, so we'll see if she joins in the next few minutes. Well, let's go to Andrew Wisnowski from the Linden Lee Community Association. Andrew, here in the room. So Andrew, you can take the spot at the end of the table. Actually, go a little bit further. Yeah, right to that one. And then press the button on the mic. Welcome.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. I'm with the Linden Lee Community Association, and we appreciate the opportunity to provide the following comments regarding the zoning bylaw amendment and site plan control proposal for 47 Beechwood, 12 Douglas, and 5 Springfield. The proposed development is situated at a strategic location at the intersection of Beechwood and Springfield Avenues, a major gateway to Linden Lee, and the node where several local businesses are located. The LCA supports the redevelopment of this important node and the increased density that development would bring, provided that the new development conform to the provisions of the zoning bylaw, respect the Beechwood Community Design Plan, and enable active ground floor uses, and addresses the safety issues on traffic safety issues on Springfield Avenue. And some of these issues have been addressed by Jack. The LCA appreciates the efforts made by the developer and the design team to respond to the design guidelines of the CDP, notably through recognition of the transition to smaller scale buildings in the St. Charles sector, and through the articulation of the facade to read as a collection of smaller structures. The widening of the Beechwood right-of-way, which will accommodate additional sidewalk and public open spaces and a new bicycle track, is also welcome. The LCA believes there are nonetheless significant outstanding issues related to the proposed development that Councillor King has outlined in his analysis, which do not appear to have been given due consideration by the City of Ottawa planning staff, and which we urge the Planning and Housing Committee to consider. Three of them. The LCA strongly opposes the proposed reduction to 0 of the rear yard setback and failure to meet the angular plane requirements. And the first gentleman that spoke addressed that issue. Meeting your rear yard setback and angular plane requirements is critical to maintaining the quality of the built environment in dense urban neighborhoods. Failure to do so will have important health and quality of life implications and sets a negative precedent. Second, the LCA continues to be very concerned about traffic safety on Springfield Avenue at the intersection, especially related to the garage and vehicle access to and from the development. The current proposal offers no design solutions. Rather, it highlights the need for drivers exiting the garage to exercise caution. This is an inadequate response by the developer and the city. Councillor King has also outlined significant safety issues for cyclists heading north on Springfield. This intersection, and it wasn't really addressed in the presentation, and I didn't bring any pictures with me, but is already highly stressed during the daytime hours by 2 OC Transpo stops. There's one northbound at Springfield and one eastbound on Beechwood. And when the buses arrive simultaneously, the whole thing kind of falls apart. And that intersection serves as a key approach to 5 schools served by Springfield Avenue. So in the morning rush hour and evening rush hour, that intersection is, let's just call it a nightmare. Finally, we believe the development's emphasis on 1-bedroom units and the lack of affordable and larger units for families is disappointing and a lost opportunity to contribute to a suitable mix of housing supply so desperately needed across the city and within this neighborhood. We thank you for your consideration of these points.
Thanks very much, Andrew. Are there any questions from committee members? Councillor Brockington.
Just a very minor clarification. The proposed development is in New Edinburgh. Is that correct? And you're the neighboring community, or is this considered part of your association's catchment?
Typically, Linden Lee exists in the space east of Springfield Avenue. New Edinburgh's on the west, but it's more of a real estate construct than anything else, to be honest.
In no way am I trying to diminish your presentation today. It's just
Okay.
in the absence of the New Edinburgh Association, I just wanted to clarify.
We've carefully coordinated our comments with them, with the Vanier Association.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from committee members? Okay. Thank you very much for your delegation.
Thank you.
Our next delegation is Dr. Ian Crane. I think Ian is online. Yes, I see you there. You'll need to unmute Ian.
All right. I thought you had muted me. Anyway, I live at 27 Douglas Avenue, which is a few hundred meters from this property, across the street from it, the odd number. I have various concerns, some of which were just outlined rather clearly about the total mess of the intersection with Springfield and Beechwood. And also, though, of course, of the Douglas Avenue facing of the new development. One of the main concerns is the lack of any obvious place for taxis or Uber and so on to pick up and drop off people. For deliveries, inevitable Amazon deliveries and dinner deliveries, where are they going to pull off? Then there's garbage pickup. There's major deliveries, for instance, furniture, move-ins to apartments, and provisioning the commercial spaces. If should any of them be a restaurant, we'll be facing those giant Cisco trucks and so on. And all of that is relegated to being curbside on Douglas Avenue, which is a rather narrow and, of course, entirely residential street. This seems to be really not a very good idea and certainly doesn't constitute what the staff are required to suggest to the committee that it is good planning. Another question about good planning is the similar problems with the street as it goes along. I see now, which is different from some of the early material, about proposition for a protected bicycle lane across the front, even with a boulevard with trees or something like that. There's certainly no space for that without setting back this property. So I'm a little confused as to how this is going to be achieved. And maybe it'll appear in site plans and so on later on. But it's not a very sensible thing. Would draw your attention to the fact that the 180 inputs came from individuals, of which 172 opposed most of these bylaw amendments, and that further 3 different community associations put in very well reasoned critiques and so on. The review design panel also criticized the massing on the side streets like ours, and our own counselor has put in something that do it. In spite of that, the staff largely seems to have ignored these concerns, and in fact seem to be advocating on behalf of the developer in order to give reasons why the city's own bylaws, which they have implemented in order to achieve the goals of the city and the official plan, and it wonder why we want to override them. One of the things they've used as supporting is a traffic study that used 5-year-old data and managed somehow with a peculiar algorithm, I'm sure, to conclude that adding 121 or is it 123 dwelling units in place of the current 6 dwelling units did not result in any significant increase in commuter traffic at the peak hours. In fact, a reduction of the number of vehicles in the evening commute, which assumes that some people are driving to work and then taking the bus home. So, in a very obviously flawed report, they're using.
Ian, that's your time. If you can just quickly wrap up.
Okay, thank you for that. The basic point is that overall the project reduces the commercial space that's there, eliminating a number of popular restaurants and meeting places, provides detrimental shading and sensitive transitions to adjoining residential areas, and make a currently very bad traffic situation even worse. And it does not, in summary, provide a harmonious relationship with the surrounding context. Reducing the number of and type of available commercial things certainly does not add to the Main Street atmosphere. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ian. Are there any questions from committee members? Okay, I'm seeing none. Thanks for your delegation this morning. I'm going to ask the applicant team to come forward. While they're coming forward, Councillor King was in touch with me this morning, and due to a long-standing commitment, he was not able to attend today's meeting, but he did ask me to share with the committee and with residents who are here that he did submit detailed comments concerning this file that are in the application report. And he's been in communication with many residents and community organizations about this application. And he does intend to speak with the applicant team about resident concerns and concerns that he shares before this application is given final consideration by council next week. So we have the applicant team here. And do you have a presentation for us?
We do. We have,
okay.
There
it is. Thank you. You have 5 minutes as well.
Good morning, Chair and Committee. So my name is Urgent Sewer. I'm with Novatech, and we're here on behalf of the property owners 237916 Ontario Inc. I'm joined by my colleague Murray Chown and our project architect Ryan Coolwine from Project One Studio. And so I'll be speaking to the application. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So this is just the context slide. I think staff covered this in their presentation, so maybe we could actually just skip to slide 4. So as staff alluded to, the subject site is dedicated Main Street corridor in the inner urban transect of the official plan and is subject to the evolving neighborhoods overlay. The inner urban transect is planned for mid to high density development within proximity to frequent street transit and rapid transit. An urban pattern of built form site design and a mix of uses is intended for the inner urban transect. The evolving overlay supports intensification and gradual change in character to support higher densities and an evolution towards a more urban built form. The development does provide a high density development within a mid-rise built form that has access to frequent transit along Beechwood Avenue. Next slide, please. So the building height of 9 stories is permitted along main streets in the inner urban transect. The subject site is along a part of Beechwood Avenue that is designated Main Street corridor, as you see on the image on the slide. As the Beechwood Avenue right-of-way is less than 30 meters, that permits a height of up to 9 stories, and the proposal is 8 stories. So the proposed development of the 8-story mixed-use building clearly aligns with this height direction in the official plan. Next slide, please. So the official plan states that within the corridor designation, the heights should be the permitted heights should be concentrated to closest to the corridor, and that appropriate transitions in height, use of land, site design, and development character shall be provided through the site to where the corridor meets the abutting designations. And you can see on that image how that transition is provided from the west side of Beechwood as you move towards the east on the right-hand side of the image. The development provides a transition towards the taller buildings to the west and the east, and the rear step back above the 3rd story, along with the 2-meter tall opaque fence that's being provided, help ensure that the development transitions adequately to the properties to the north, which are also in the evolving neighborhoods overlay. Next slide, please. So the subject site is within the McKay Main Street area of the Beechwood CDP. The Beechwood CDP states that new buildings should be high quality, mid-rise mixed-use buildings with small stores at grade. The proposal is well designed with commercial units at grade and residential uses above. The use of building step backs, vertical and horizontal breaks, and transitions in building material, color, and texture ensures the building reads as several distinct buildings in line with the CDP. And it should be noted that the building design has been reviewed by city urban design staff and the urban design review panel and has satisfied both. Next slide, please. As mentioned by staff, the development is to construct an 8-story mid-rise mixed-use building with 123 residential units and 4 commercial units at grade. This is going to be a mix of studios, 1 bedroom, 1 bed plus den, 2 bedroom, and double height 2 bedroom units. Approximately 550 square meters of commercial space will be provided. 48 vehicular parking spaces and 128 bicycle parking spaces are proposed. Per the latest landscape plan, the proposal includes 10 trees, including 5 street trees along Beechwood, 2 street trees along Springfield, and 3 private trees behind the building. And so the project conforms to the OP and it aligns with the OP context for the site. As I should emphasize, the 2 tests consider a zoning bylaw amendment or whether the development is consistent with the PPS and whether the amendment conforms to the city's OP. And it's our professional planning opinion and city staff's professional planning opinion that the requested zoning amendments meet both criteria of these tests. And so we are supportive of city staff's recommendation to approve the zoning bylaw amendment application. And I just also want to note that city traffic engineering staff have reviewed the TIA that was completed in support of this application, and they have no concern with the design of the accesses or the number of parking spaces that are being provided. Next slide, please. So once again, I want to emphasize that based on our planning opinion and the professional planning opinion of city staff, the proposal represents good land use planning. Based on all of the comments provided by city staff to date, they have no concerns with the proposal and support this development. And so we ask that the committee approve the zoning bylaw amendment in accordance with the recommendations that are before them from staff and from us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from committee members? Councillor Brockington.
Just a few minor questions. So I heard you say it, but I didn't write it down. The number of units again is?
Sorry, so the number of units, Councillor Brockington, is 123.
Okay, and the number of parking spots?
The number of parking spots in total is 48 spaces, 30 resident spaces, and then 18 spaces that are visitor and retail.
And that will all be underground?
Correct.
And where is the in-out access point going to be?
The access to the parking garage is on Springfield Road.
Okay, very good. So you had mentioned that the city's traffic folks had looked at the traffic impact assessment. Did they mention anything? Were there any concerns at all? You said they gave you basically a clean bill of health, but did they raise any concerns at all?
Through the chair, I wonder if that question should be directed to staff. Certainly, we aren't aware of any concerns with the TIA that we prepared.
I only asked the applicant since they've had dialogue with the city's transportation folks, and they said they got a stamp, but I don't mind directing that to city staff. I just want to make sure, Chair, that I know this intersection well. I'm in this neighborhood frequently. It's busy. I don't think it's out of control. There's a lot going on, but I will ask staff some follow-up questions just about the overall safety of this intersection. So I'll wait. That's it from me. Okay.
Any other questions from committee? I wanted to ask, there has been a considerable amount of public feedback on this. How is that public feedback? Has it changed anything? Is there anything that's been modified as a result of that feedback? How is the feedback taken into consideration by the applicants?
So thank you for the question. It's possible that Ryan Kuhn may want to respond in addition to my responses in terms of how the architecture, the design team dealt with some of those comments. Certainly over the course of processing this application, one of the, I think, significant changes has been that we've gone from 0 street trees on Beechwood to 5 street trees on Beechwood as a result of discussions with staff and in an effort to address the concerns that were raised by the community about greening of the streetscape and dealing with OP policies that speak to protection of the urban forest. We've also added some trees in the backyard of the project since the initial applications were filed. So certainly I believe that we've responded as best we can to those concerns. Ryan can speak more directly to how we've dealt with concerns about setback and step backs to the properties to the north.
Hello. So further to what Murray was suggesting, I think likely, so this is a very complex site in a number of ways. We don't have the benefit of having multiple sides of the building that aren't exposed to public access, right? We have frontage along 3 faces, and all 3 of those faces need quite a bit of design attention. You know, I'm a resident of the community as well, and this project resonates for us personally because we want to be providing a project that enhances the neighborhood in which we feel that this does. So every public facing part of the building needs to be really well resolved. So we've had a number of meetings. I've had some offline meetings as well from other representatives, community association. A lot of the time, the conversation has been about informing reasons behind decisions that were made. You know, the reason, you know, vehicle access is where it is. We've heard suggestions about it needing to be moved onto Douglas. But we felt it important that, you know, heavily trafficked, you know, areas of vehicle access to the site should be on heavier road or bigger roads, making Douglas a quieter street. But I would say probably the largest single element was the transition that we have along Douglas. And so that's become a contentious point where originally we positioned a building that was much closer to that north property line along Douglas. And I would say that certainly community consultation that we've had has been part of the reason why the building has stepped back more than it previously was. And certainly trying to understand or respect city and the community's comments with respect to that particular item was the reason we made that change.
Sorry if I could also jump in. I think one of the things that really came through in the written comments that we read from the community associations and from Councillor King, and then also the verbal feedback that we've received in our consultation with them is the concern about non-residential uses. And I think that one of the things that you'll see in the staff recommended zoning before you is the requirement to add to have non-residential uses at grade, whereas there is no current requirement for that. And that's zoning that we've agreed to. And I think that responds quite well to that concern that residents have.
Yeah, I know that's a big concern for Councillor King along Beechwood, is to maintain the retail commercial vibrancy of the streets. So it's not required by zoning, but it was included based on feedback from councillor in the community. That's good. Okay. Any other questions for the applicant, Councillor Kavanagh?
Yeah, thank you. In terms of the retail space or commercial space, there are currently commercial buildings there. Are you going to be allowing the businesses that are there now an opportunity to move in? Is there any kind of arrangement for that?
I mean, we can't speak on the owner's behalf. I know the owner actually of the property has direct involvement with a number of the businesses that are currently on the site. So I would expect that there will be opportunity for the current business owners to move in. While we're on the subject of the retail spaces, you know, there's been a lot of back and forth about the amount of retail space being offered as part of this proposal, that we've got 5 current businesses and we're showing less than 5 retail spaces. We've done an analysis of the actual kind of usable square footage inside these establishments versus what we're proposing here, and the actual change of interior use space is less than 1,000 square feet. in total. So it's very comparable, and that does not account for the outdoor patio space that we're providing in front of all of the retail spaces, as well as the fact that all of these retail spaces will now be fully accessible, whereas currently none of them are. So I expect that every current tenant will have opportunity to move into the new building, and the retail spaces that are being provided will be accessible to all and will be at nearly an even keel to what we're currently offering on the site.
I can't help but wonder if it's affordable for them. Like they're probably, are they going to be paying a lot more, do you think?
Well, I mean, likely, but they'll be renting much higher quality space as well. So, you know, we need to weigh market conditions, right? Right now, the buildings that are on Beechwood are in a state of disrepair. They're not accessible. They don't have proper HVAC controls. They don't have commercial ceiling heights. They will be fit up. The newer spaces will meet all current standards, and they'll be significantly better spaces.
If they can afford it. I mean, that's an issue with small independent businesses, but I appreciate there is commercial space and you need that for a main street. My other question is in terms of for the residential, since it's such a low parking ratio, are you looking at a car share program at all for tenants?
It's a possibility. Certainly, the plans don't reflect that, but this is something that's very new for the industry, and I'm sure our client will investigate that opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Oops. Thank you for joining us today. We will move now to questions for staff. Councilors have any questions for staff? Councilor Brockton, did you want to lead off on the road safety? Oh, Councilor Johnson's hand is up first. All right, Councilor Johnson, good morning. We'll go to you
Good
first.
morning. Thanks. Just a couple questions following up on the first delegation. So the first delegation mentioned that he didn't feel like he was adequately notified from staff in with respect to the neighboring development. Can you please go over how neighbors will be notified in this situation and others? I believe that there's a letter that's sent out with a certain radius, but I wonder if so much time has elapsed between, you know, an initial proposal and revisions. How are residents informed as things change?
Thank you for your question. Through your chair, the proposed zoning bylaw amendment and site plan control application, which is concurrently being reviewed, did adhere to the public notification and consultation policy of the city. With regards to the notices, upon the application being deemed complete and the formal notices going out, property owners within 120 meters of the subject property would have been notified through the mail. Signs have been posted on the site since. And through our DevApp's website, any updates to the plans would have been provided publicly facing on the city's website. As it pertains to some of my consultations, as certain interested members of the public have reached out following their comments, wondering if there's any updates, I would have directed them to the DevApp's website once those resubmissions had started coming in the later spring, early summer. And then for the public meeting today, notices met the Planning Act requirements as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then, you know, looking at the development and seeing, you know, the setback, the lack of setback from the back of the building and the height there, it does seem like the shadow being cast on those neighboring properties is pretty stark. You know, goes over the entire property. But I'm also thinking now of Bill 5, where the province is actually asking for municipalities to remove mandatory shadow studies. So I was wondering if you could speak to that, whether or not shadow is becoming even less of a consideration for municipalities as they evaluate developments.
Thank you again, and through you, Chair. With respect to the shadow study that was provided, it does indicate the as of right massing that is permitted through the TM8 zone, which is 20 meters. And then it shows the new net shadows, which are being cast as a result of the proposed massing of the 24.7 meter building or the 8-story building before us today. And due to the transitions on the east side of the building towards Douglas, it does show very minimal net new shadows that would be casted on the residential context to the north on the eastern side of the property. And with respect to the western side of the property, the adjacent neighboring lots are also zoned TM8. So we would anticipate that they would be able to develop at a similar scale as the proposed development and would have minimal impacts to the shadow as well. With respect to Bill 5, I'm not quite certain where things will go, as we are awaiting direction on how we will be looking at these studies in the future. But I will note that depending on where you are in the city, our terms of reference indicates priority areas that need to be protected from shadows, whether that's public parks, corridors, and generally outside of the downtown area, effects of taller buildings on low-rise neighboring development.
Okay, thank you very much. I know we're all eagerly awaiting the direction from Bill 5 to understand how we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brockington.
Thank you, Chair. This file received a considerable amount of public input. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's rare, at least in my opinion, for an 8-story building on the periphery of a community. Where did this sort of snowball? Did someone raise a fuss and get a petition, or are these all independent residents on their own coming forward? How did this evolve over time to have so many people submitting their comments, mostly who are opposed to this application?
Thanks for your question. Through you, Chair. I believe a number of the comments had been submitted following the deeming of the application as being complete. And once those notices had come out, I'm not aware of any petitions. So once the signs and those formal notices started going out to the community, that's when they would have been made aware and shared their thoughts with the city.
Fair enough. Okay. So just going back to the traffic, 66 parking spots, 48 from residents. Statistically, this will be very, very low impact on these streets and at the intersection. That said, the intersection of Springfield and Beechwood is a beehive of activity. I note the bike lanes that are proposed. Does staff have any concerns at all with respect to sort of the net increase of pedestrian and bicycle and vehicular traffic? Anything you want to raise for committee?
Thanks again. And through you, Chair, the TIA has been reviewed by Traffic Engineering Services, and they have indicated no concerns with the amount of parking or the proposed location of the parking ramp. Historically, comments on the TIA have been pertaining to the implementing of elements of the functional design for Beechwood, such as those street trees, which we saw on the plans today, as well as the protected bike lane. And in the future, as further lots develop or the capital project is implemented, the functional design will see its full fruition. So I think the anticipation is that future or the cycling infrastructure that has been developing along Beechwood and will continue to be developed will address the cycling concerns, but generally the policies are very supportive of active transportation, walking, and transit as opposed to vehicular modes.
Okay, thank you for that. And just finally, we're not talking about a rectangular 8-story building. From what I read, from the eastern side, the Douglas side, it's 3 stories, and then it goes up to about 7, and I think it tops off at 8. But do you want to just elaborate on the design of the building with respect to heights, various heights?
Thank you again, and through you, Chair. With respect to the massing of the building, the most sensitive context that needed to be preserved was the residential context along Douglas Avenue. So the applicant did provide for, I believe, a 3-meter setback from the podium to that rear lot line along Douglas Avenue, where a service lane will be provided. And above the first 3 stories, there will be a 5.5-meter setback from floors 4 to 7. And that's in an effort to minimize shadows and massing impacts to that low-rise residential context. In addition, there will be a fence provided along this lot line, as Arjun had noted earlier. A majority of the building is 7 stories, and it does respect the view plane requirements from Beechwood Cemetery. And as we go towards the Springfield and Beechwood intersection, that's where we start to see that 8-story component and where additional density is anticipated. As I noted earlier, the adjacent lots on the Springfield Road are similarly zoned to TM8 and can anticipate further intensification and densification on those lots. And through the podiums themselves, they have been designed to replicate the datum lines of the surrounding context. So on that west side of the building and along Springfield, they provide for a 6-story podium given the mid-rise context to the west. And as it starts to go towards a more low-rise context to the east and to the northeast, that's when it starts to step down in nature to provide for a more pedestrian scale.
The building that was built after, I think, the hardware store burned down, that's bounded by Crichton, Beechwood, and Mackay. How tall is that building?
Mr. Chair, I believe we're referring to the Beechwood Minto, the first one. I believe that's 8 stories as well.
8, okay. And then if we go further east on Beechwood, building heights, is it more or less 6 to 9 stories, or is there anything else that's larger, taller?
Yes, the newer developments along Beechwood are in the same height range in that 8-story range. I think they vary slightly between the 2 buildings, but that same mid-rise on the upper levels.
So the application before us is consistent with buildings on this corridor.
Staff would agree with that statement.
Fair enough. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, I'm seeing no other questions from committee. So thank you to staff for the information. So this is item 4.2, zoning bylaw amendment, 47 Beechwood, 12 Douglas Avenue, and 5 Springfield Road. Are the report recommendations carried? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll move to the next item that was held, and this was item 4.4, zoning bylaw amendment for 2409 Carlson Avenue. And again, Jack Smith, you're presenting again. We have a short presentation. We have 3 delegations who will be speaking to this, and we have the applicants as well, but we'll start with the presentation once we get that up on screen.
Awesome. So good morning once again, and thank you. Today, or now I'll walk you through the proposed zoning bylaw amendment at 2409 Carlson Avenue. Next slide, please. The subject property is an irregularly shaped corner lot located within the Heron Park neighborhood on the south side of Heron Road between Carlson Avenue and Duchesser Avenue. The subject lands are in close proximity to Mooney's Bay LRT station to the west and frequent transit along Banks Street to the east. Next slide, please. The major zoning bylaw amendment seeks to permit the development of 3 low-rise apartment buildings, each containing 8 dwelling units. The lots adjacent to Heron Road have been designed to address and provide frontage to the Heron Road being a minor corridor, improving the pedestrian realm along that corridor. A single-story accessory structure for refuse and storage, along with a designated tree planting area, is proposed in the rear yard of each lot. While no vehicular parking is proposed, each building will provide 8 bicycle parking spaces in the rear yard to increase active transportation and public transit ridership in the area. The southernmost building will address Carlson Avenue, while the 2 northernmost buildings will address both Heron Road and their respective side streets. The buildings are proposed to be of modular design, which will reduce the time for construction, improving building efficiency and limit the impacts of construction within the neighborhood. And an application for lifting of part lot control, which is being reviewed concurrently with staff alongside this rezoning application, seeks to subdivide the current property into 3 separate parcels, each of which is proposed to contain one low-rise apartment dwelling. All 3 lots, regardless of ownership, following the lifting of part lot control application, will be required to meet the city's waste management requirements, as well as the city's property maintenance and property standards bylaws to ensure consistent management amongst the 3 lots. Next slide, please. The proposal includes the retention of 6 existing trees and removal of 7 trees. 9 new trees are proposed, including street trees along Carlson Avenue, Heron Road, and Dishesser Avenue, as well as a rear yard tree contained within the property boundaries on the east side of the site. Vegetative plantings are proposed across all 3 sites. The lands provide for sufficient areas of soft landscaping and soil to allow for the greening of the property and planting of trees within the rear yard, and access to the rear yard areas is provided by a hardscape pathway, which is a shared pathway for the 2 westernmost lots. Next slide, please. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment would rezone the property from residential 3rd density subzone A or R3A to a site-specific residential 4th density subzone UD or R4 UD zone. This has the effect of allowing low-rise apartment buildings as a permitted use on the subject lands, which are not currently contemplated within the R3A zoning currently applying to the subject lands. Next slide, please. The site-specific exceptions represent required relief from the R4 UD zoning, which will apply to the lot, as well as additional requirements included as a result of the review process. These exceptions include relief for corner side yard setbacks, rear yard setbacks, and interior side yard setbacks. In addition to the relief, a provision has been included to require a 1-to-1 bicycle parking space ratio per dwelling unit, going above and beyond the requirements of the zoning bylaw. Staff opine that the rezoning and site-specific exceptions are appropriate and represent good land use planning. The reduced corner side yard setback allows for the buildings to better front onto and address Heron Road, a minor corridor within the official plan. The reduced rear yard setbacks retain an adequately sized rear yards that allow for tree planting, soft landscaping, and programming and amenity area for residents. The reduced interior side yard setbacks are consistent in providing an adequate separation between buildings and allowing access to the rear yards. And the proposed buildings will not negatively impact any privacy or shadow impacts, as the building heights will generally be consistent with those already permitted in the neighborhood under the R3A zone. Next slide, please. Staff recommend approval of the zoning bylaw amendment, as the proposed development will sensitively integrate within the context while being supportive of the growth of the 15-minute neighborhood through the provision of additional housing stock and missing middle housing, which supports multimodal transportation in close proximity to public transit, as well as a variety of non-residential uses along Bank Street. The proposal is consistent with the city's official plan policies pertaining to the outer urban transect, minor corridors, and the evolving neighborhoods overlay. As such, the zoning bylaw amendment represents good land use planning. Next slide, please. And that wraps up my presentation to the committee. Thank you, and please let us know if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll come back to staff for any questions, and we'll go to our delegations now. We have 3 delegations. First delegation is Martha Joslin. Is Martha online? Martha, if you're online, you should be able to unmute and join the meeting.
Hi, can you hear me?
Martha, yes, we can.
Hi, yeah, sorry, I'm in a place with pretty spotty Wi-Fi. Okay, my name is Martha, and thank you for allowing me to comment on this proposal. I've lived in Heron Park for 14 years on Chasseur Avenue in a home that is 1 property over from the property in question. My very great concern is that there are 24 units planned that could be built over 3 low rises without any parking. Based on the current proposal, there is no provision for the site to accommodate parking, indicating that all parking needs will be met via street parking. Our neighborhood is small and self-contained. There is no throughway to Bank or Walkley, and it has no sidewalks. There is already a lack of street parking. A lack of street parking, and with the potential for at least 24 additional vehicles at this address, not to mention visitors, there are some serious concerns, not only in terms of parking congestion, but also pedestrian safety. Our neighborhood is designated a walkable / 15-minute neighborhood, and many residents take advantage of the ability to walk to nearby amenities. There are no sidewalks, as I mentioned, and residents walk on the side of the streets. Parking congestion will lead to vastly increased parking, almost certainly on both sides of the street, with the result that the walkable nature of our neighborhood will instead become a precarious venture, making it much more difficult to navigate around parked cars amid street traffic. We recognize the need for densification of urban neighborhoods, but building to the maximum, this is with regard to the setbacks as well, which are decreased on all sides, without consideration of the walkable nature of the neighborhood, the lack of sidewalks, and the potential threat to pedestrian traffic is irresponsible. At the very least, I think this proposal must be modified to address these concerns. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Martha. There is a question for you from Councillor Menard. Good morning, Councillor.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you very much. And Martha, thanks for your presentation. I appreciate your submission online as well, the written submission that you made. My team's had a chance to speak with the applicant about your concerns and some of the other nearby residents, and understandably, what we've raised with them is a pursuit of a similar goal of yours, which is more walking, biking, transit option for residents that will be living there, as well as a potential car share option. And I just wonder your thoughts on car share in the area, and whether or not that's part of the solution is having some more car share options for people to utilize from this building.
Well, I can say that when I didn't have a car, I used car sharing. But if I have a car, I am not planning to use car sharing. I am planning to find somewhere to park. And with in excess of 24 residents, I feel that there will be a large portion that will have cars.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. Thanks, Martha.
Okay, Councillor Brockington.
Thanks, Chair, and thank you very much for your delegation. It's Councillor Brockington speaking. Do you were you told by either the applicant or the city that tenants who had parking would be able to park on the street, or is this just what you have concluded yourself, that if they have cars, that's where they'll end up?
That's my own conclusion.
Okay. And given the proposed location of this property or this development is on the periphery of Heron, it's not really in the community. I'm trying to understand the impact, even if there are parked cars. It's sort of, like I said, right on the periphery with Heron. So your main concern is just because of the lack of sidewalk, it sort of forces pedestrians to walk in the middle of the street. And I can understand the concern, but it'd help me understand from your perspective.
So I live on Chasseur, and the address is on Carlson, 1 block over as you go via Heron. And this property extends from Chasseur to Carlson. And so it's part of my street, it's part of Carlton. The main, I guess, extent of the property is along Heron, but it also extends up Chasseur and up Carlson. There is no parking on Heron. And so that is my concern. I consider this property part of our neighborhood. It's been in the same hands as long as I've lived here.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your delegation.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Martha, for joining us. We'll move on to our second delegation on this item, Alicia Artizuk. Alicia, welcome. You should be able to unmute, Alicia. We'll see if we can hear you.
Oh, sorry about that. I thought I was muted by you guys. Good morning.
Good morning.
I am a resident at the neighboring property of 2410 Chasseur Avenue and have lived here since 2017. I understand that the application that you are considering is limited to the application's request to increase the allowable residential density and reduce the space required for the yard setbacks. However, I have concerns that this project will cause other major issues for future residents of the building and the neighboring properties, namely through parking, green space, ownership of the properties, and community wellness. Could you go to slide 2, please? Here is the lot in relation to the triplex where I live, marked as B. My triplex has 3 units, which can fit up to 8 residents, 6 parking spaces out front. We also have green space in the backyard available to all of our residents. Our lot space is also half the size of 2409 Carlson at 479 square meters. They are building 3 apartment buildings to fit 3 times the amount of people and only double the amount of space. I understand, next slide. Thank you. I understand that our zone does not have a minimum parking restriction given that we are within a 15-minute walking neighborhood and close to city transit. However, I think it is unreasonable to believe that out of 24 units, none of these residents would have vehicles, especially knowing how OC Transpo is. The streets in our neighborhood are already very congested, especially during the school year, and there are no sidewalks along Carlson nor on Chasser. The increase of street parking is rapidly reducing pedestrian access. I appreciate the applicant's notion to provide bicycle parking, but I do not believe that 8 bike racks will be enough to accommodate the sheer amount of people who will be residing in these buildings, nor does it account for accessibility for individuals unable to use bicycles as their main source of transit. I'd also like to call attention to the fact that parking is not required for a lot under 450 square meters. If this parcel of land is divided into 3 subsections, it will no longer need to meet that parking requirement, which is very convenient. Because also from the parking requirements for the zone, it says in the case of a building containing residential uses, no off-street motor vehicle parking is required to be provided under the section for the first 12 dwelling units, which again makes it very lucky that they wish for this lot to be divided by 3. Otherwise, with 24 units, parking would have been required. One of my largest concerns for this removal of the existing green space. As you can see, for the green space, the property currently has an amount that matches that of the neighboring buildings. Even the 2 closest large apartment buildings have some front or backyard green space available to their residents. Next slide, please. And I personally have some specific concerns over the white cedar hedge, which runs along lot 3, 2, and 2410 Chasser. Next slide, please. On the applicant's site plan, this hedge is highlighted for removal. However, the TIR indicates that the hedge is A, to be retained, and B, the property of 2410 Chasser. I'm concerned over whether the applicant is aware of this as it is fully on our property. Slide 6, please. As you can see here, the cedars is on our side of the property division and we do not want them removed. I would like some sort of confirmation today that the applicant will not be removing our trees. Next slide, please. Additionally, the applicant has planned to remove all of the trees that are currently on the subject lot, which has already begun prior to the sign being posted back in 2024. And I would like to note that the trees identified with the pink bracket on the TIR as number 1, 2, 3, and 4 are currently within the city's row and are not the actual property of the lot, as well as the 3 trees being added to the city's row will also not be on the actual property. And the pink bracket and the arrow indicates the city row and the public sidewalk. Next slide, please. I do not see how the trees currently on city maintained property should count towards an overall green space. And I also do not reasonably believe that anyone would be enjoying themselves on the green space in between a sidewalk and a bike path next to Heron Road, meaning that overall they will not be retaining any of the original trees on the subject lot, nor maintaining the number of trees originally on their lot. The single small trees to be planted on the property, I do not think meet a reasonable amount of green space. Next slide, please. Yes. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Alicia. Is that the end of your presentation, or?
No, sorry, you raised your hand, so I thought you had a question.
Okay.
I'm wrapping up though.
You've got a few seconds if you had a final thought. Or
yes. I'm worried about the ownership dividing into 3 would result in inconsistent responsibilities for the owners, such as refusal of access through easements, improper maintenance, and care of the property. if the property is approved, I was hoping it would be a single or two lots. As mentioned before, I can see that parking would be a problem if that were to happen. My final thoughts are that I know that on paper this lot fits its requirements, but I truly do not believe that the applicant has chosen to build on this lot with any regard for the people who will be living in it. 24 units crammed into 1,075 square meters and then subdivided into 3 to avoid having parking included. There will be no yard space, no balconies, and no rent regulation on new builds. If this were an application for 2 buildings being built with an allowance for reasonable green space and parking, I may believe that this lot were being built with long-term living and comfort for renters in mind, but I do not see that here. So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. There's a question from Councillor Menard.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks, Alicia, for your presentation and prior submissions. I'm particularly interested in the green space piece and the surrounding trees and the hedge that you pointed out. Have you had a response from city staff or the applicant on those issues you raised? Because I noted you did raise them in your submissions previously as well. Have you heard back on those pieces? And if so, I guess you're seeking more clarity today if you haven't.
Yes, I did include those in my original submissions, and I did bring them up today. I have received no communication at all on whether or not they consider those hedges to be removed, as again, they're on our property, not on their property. I would really not like them removed.
Yeah, okay. That's helpful for me, and I just appreciate you being here and articulating your concerns well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm seeing no other questions. Thank you, Alicia, for joining us today. And I'll go to our final delegation on this as Adil Mohammed. Adil is online as well. Good morning.
Hi. Hey, Alicia wanted to say something real quick, so we'll let her finish.
We had no additional questions from councillors, so we're going to move on to your delegation, Adil. Thanks for joining us.
All right, fantastic. All right, hi. I go around the area and I saw the proposal and I was a little shocked. Why are they doing this? And I looked into the proposal and it shocked me even more. Why are they doing this? So there's some things I don't get. So we're making exceptions in favor of these buildings. And we're letting them build not 1, not 2, but 3 apartment buildings. So these buildings and rooms already they'll be cramped, and it's going to be terrible. So there's not going to be much space for even the residents who live in there. All right, so that's the first thing. And secondly, where do these people even park? Like, have you seen the streets? They're very narrow, right? So with that amount of rooms in that little parking space, it's going to be parked on the streets. There's a main road nearby. When people turn in, it's going to be hard for the turn. They're probably going to crash into any cars that are parked nearby. People are going to park on the driveways, right? That's happened before. Like, one of my buddies just had to get his car towed from there, right? Like a car that was towed because it was blocking the driveway, which is a problem. Someone has an emergency and need to get out, right? The bicycle spaces aren't going to be useful for the winter. There's 8 bikes for like 24 people. Yeah, no one's going to use it for like a whole season, right? People aren't using bicycles as the main form of transportation. Somebody brought up car sharing. These people in these buildings don't know each other. Why would they go through the effort to coordinate and schedule like car sharing? Like there's not any logic behind that. It's not even a band-aid fix. Instead of viewing like a beautiful sky from their windows, residents are just going to look and just see giant walls and inside the roofs of other tenants, which is also kind of a privacy violation. The building creates a lot of shadow for nearby residents. I didn't even know about the hedges that Alicia brought up, but that's a great point. Like you're going and you're chopping things up that it's not on your property. You could be doing that. That's a big concern. This is being built in a residential occupied area that's like occupied by traditional style homes. You're disrupting the culture. Those are points that everyone's kind of like brought up, and they're extremely valid points that I think that should be greatly considered. The other thing, and it's something I'm quite passionate about, is that the buildings are a destruction of the environment. So they're going to result in further noise and light pollution in a residential area that already faces noise and light pollution. Like if you live there and you look up at the stars, you can't see them, right? So, and also there's a main road nearby, and introducing 24 new people they're probably going to be blasting music or doing whatever, right? That happens sometimes in the area. So like, there's really no good reason to do this. The garden that's nearby is gorgeous. It's used by local flora and fauna, and it's important to support the pollination efforts of like local insects. And I think that we're just putting money over like this gorgeous garden. This is clearly a house that they don't build like this anymore, right? This is like an antique, and you're just destroying it for the purposes of like some renters and landlords, right? And we already have significant environmental concerns in this city with the large amount of construction. There's always construction. It's how they say it, right? There's two constructions in this city. Winter, two seasons in the city. Sorry, winter and construction. And like we need to preserve our green space, right? Ottawa's website even states that the public green spaces assume many forms, including landscape parks and pathways, sports fields and playgrounds, tree-lined boulevards, meadows around the storm water management ponds, wooded ravines, sensitive wetlands and forests. Privately owned green spaces, while not open for public access, do contribute significantly to the city's overall ecological integrity and resilience. And I like to this is the first time we've had this happen, right? We had sand dunes in Ottawa. Did you know this? We had sand dunes. And what happened was they got smaller and smaller and smaller. And now there's just tiny little spaces there that are maintained, right, by some like environmental laws. But even that, like, they might come in and destroy that. You don't know, right? These sand dunes are gone now. Why? Because they kept building homes. Because they kept building residences. They didn't care for the environment. They didn't care for the people. And what I'm seeing is that this is an entire concern. Someone lives right next door to this. They're saying, we don't want this. We've been living here for like a decade and a half or whatever, right? And you're just building anyways. There's no real good outcome to this. It's going to create a lot of congestion and increase the rate of accidents with cars. It's going to disrupt local residents. It's going to destroy the environment. Like, you can't build it anywhere else. There's really no positives to this. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Dill. There's a question for you from Councillor Troster.
Hi, Adil. I'm just wondering if you're aware of the fact that we're in the midst of a housing crisis.
Yeah, that doesn't really matter because this housing crisis, you see, the Prime Minister already said he's going to limit immigration. So we have to, go at adherence with that, right? And this housing crisis, we could also build it somewhere else in the city. Like, it doesn't need to be here. It could just be built somewhere else.
Okay.
It doesn't need to be here. Like, so that doesn't matter. Respectfully.
Okay, so respectfully, everyone has a right to be in this city, whether they are a renter or an owner. Thank you very much for your delegation.
Okay, thank you. I'm seeing no other questions. So we're going to move now to the applicant presentation. Jillian Simpson, hello. And there's also some of your team online as well, I believe. And do you have a presentation this morning? Yes.
Good morning. Yes, we do have a presentation. We can proceed with it or are available for questions.
Yeah, go ahead and you'll have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Jillian Simpson with FOTEN. I'm joined by my colleague Scott Alain, as well as Jeremy Silbert from Tiberge Homes to present a zoning bylaw amendment application for 2409 Carlson Avenue. Mr. Smith has already provided the site overview, so we'll skip to the next slide after. One more, thank you. The project consists of demolishing the existing residential building to construct 3 low-rise, 3-story apartment buildings, each containing 8 units with a mix of unit sizes. No vehicular parking is contemplated, and a 1-to-1 bike parking ratio is proposed. A single-story accessory building for refuse and storage is located in the rear yards of each lot, along with a designated area for tree planting. An application for lifting part lot control is currently under review to subdivide the property into 3 separate parcels, each supporting 1 low-rise apartment building discussed today. Next slide. So here you can see the front and rear elevations for lot 1, with lots 2 and 3 providing similar massings. Next slide. Moderate intensification is proposed, but remains sensitive to the surrounding neighborhood. This is achieved through placement of windows, outdoor accesses, and attention to the massing and materiality to integrate the buildings into the established streetscape. Next slide, please. So the site's located in the outer urban transect of the official plan and is designated a minor corridor with the evolving overlay applied. The minor corridor designation supports increased residential housing supply and density along a corridor, in this case Heron Road, and is in close proximity to transit, rapid transit. The proposal adds 3 low-rise apartment buildings for a total of 24 units to the area, contributing to the city's objective to support missing middle housing. The design is human-scaled, oriented towards Heron Road, and includes quality landscaping along all frontages and within each rear yard. Next slide. So the site is currently zoned R3A, but the R3 zone does not permit low-rise apartment buildings. This request is to rezone the property to R4UD with site-specific exceptions. Next slide, please. So the rezoning to R4UD with exceptions addresses the following. It permits an increase to the minimum bike parking ratio of 1 space per unit, whereas 0.5 spaces per unit is required. This increase supports the close proximity to rapid transit, as well as the bicycle infrastructure on Heron Road. It permits a minimum corner side yard setback of 2 meters, where the bylaw requires 4.5 meters. The improvements to the Heron right-of-way includes walkways and new street trees, and the wide right-of-way provides an additional buffer between the residential buildings and Heron Road. Permits a minimum rear yard setback of 6.5 meters, where 9.5 meters is required. The rear yard area of all proposed lots can comfortably accommodate the soft landscaping requirements, tree planting, waste, and bicycle storage, and provides adequate separation between the proposed and existing built form. We permit a decreased minimum interior yard setback where the requirement is 1.5 meters in the bylaw. So for a corner lot, the minimum interior yard setback is 1 meter, and for a corner lot, the minimum interior yard setback is 1 meter, and for an interior lot, the minimum interior yard setback is 1.5 meters on one side and 1 meter on the other. The 1 meter interior yard setbacks for the westernmost dwellings together form a 2 meter wide shared refuse lane to access the rear yard area. Further, the 1.2 meter side yard provides adequate separation from the existing low-rise residential uses on Du Chasseur. Fences along the interior lot lines between the proposed development and existing residential buildings will provide for visual screening between the proposed and existing uses. Next slide. So the proposal is located on a minor corridor. It's within 400 meters of rapid transit. It supports the city's goal to increase missing middle housing and is requesting an increase to the required number of bicycle parking spaces. This application is therefore representative of good planning as supported by city staff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the committee? Councillor Brockington.
I would respectfully say I call into question the comment, this is good planning, and I'm going to explain why. And that is because given that this abuts a corridor, given the proximity to not one, but 2 major transit connections, why didn't your client go bigger? We're building 3 low-rise apartment buildings. Yes, you're making use of the property, but was there any consideration given to building, applying to build taller and many more units, given the proximity to the Heron Transitway Station and the Mooney's Bay Trillium Line?
I'll address that one. The goal here is we're going to do this as modular construction. We're trying to provide a standardized modular construction that'll fit on a standard lot, which we're going to see a lot of coming in the new zoning bylaw. These lots are 40 by 100 or bigger will accommodate this. We can build this from excavation to first occupant in 4 months. It comes pre-assembled with drywall, paint, lights in, light switches in. We just finished our first one in the Westboro area. This is models 2 and 3 are slightly improved, but the goal here is there's a lot of very minimal impact to the neighbors. They're going to get an excavation, a foundation poured, and then we're going to drop the modules on. We got to clad it, but pretty much inside we're finishing inside. There's no banging and hammering for framing, inserting windows and all this stuff for 5 to 6 months in the 12-year project. So in order to do that, we have to standardize designs. there's gives and takes on modular, and we're excited that this was a way we could deploy this in a rapid format. Yeah, I agree. The zoning and the OP is there. Sorry, the zoning is not there yet. It's coming. The OP is there to support higher density, but this also provides us cost savings, time savings, and I think it's going to be great for the community.
Okay, I appreciate that answer, and this will be something to see. I mean, I'd like to see this once you start construction. Will you have a clause in your leases with your tenants that say no parking is provided?
Yes, and normally on a standard site plan application where you'd see the requirement to put that in. We will. We understand that this is a no site parking area. I mean, we've talked about the proximity of transit to amenities on Bank Street, to both West Billingsbridge Plaza is a quick rapid bus away. We've got access to the main light rail, the north-south line. Yeah, we understand that it's not going to be advertised as parking. There isn't available, and so as a result, it will be reflected in the leases that they'll note it.
Okay, that's important. Thank you, Chair. I'll just if I can deviate a bit, if before we get to questions to staff, if colleagues want to look up 153 Sanford Avenue, which is in the Hogsback neighborhood. We had 3 apartments of 9 units each recently built. I think they've completed last year. You can pull up a photo and see what 3 buildings, similar sized lot, similar concerns in the neighborhood. There is no on-street parking issues because they all go to Carleton University. The leases are very clear as to what provisions are and are not provided, and the major concerns as this was being applied for have not come to fruition. So 153 Sanford, if people are interested. Thanks, Chair.
Councilor Menard.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks for the presentation. Certainly appreciate the applicant's willingness to discuss this with our office, and I think there's a lot going on in this community now. We've got the new north-south transit line running, a new bike paths on Heron that are only a few years old and well utilized. Certainly walking provisions, great walking in this area to groceries, to schools nearby. This community is growing. We're putting in a brand new community building just nearby here, and it's going to be fantastic. They've been waiting decades and decades for this, and really proud that that's going to be going up and finished. It should be finished by the end of this year, if not early next year. So lots happening here, and certainly welcoming of residents in this area. I do want to just touch on a couple of issues that were raised by the delegations. The one piece around that cedar hedge, and some of the green space around the greening around that area with the other trees. Can the applicant just comment on that and whether or not those trees are slated to come down, and if you've had any more dialogue just with staff and the resident that had raised that?
The hedge is noted on our landscape plan as being retained. So I'm not sure why there's some confusion as to why it'd be removed. The trees we're talking about, there's a number of city trees around. We're going to fill in some spots where there's additional trees to be placed along Heron Road. We'll be placing some trees along both frontages on Chasseur and Carlson. Yeah, so I'm not
Thank
sure.
you. No, that's helpful about that middle hedge there. I think that'll be a nice separation just with the existing residents there and the new residents that are in. So that's good to hear. With regard to the bike spaces provided, I appreciate your willingness to work with our office too on that, and making sure that there's a little bit more than just the 1-for-1 and the options for parking there. Garbage is going to be contained, and waste is going to be contained. And another piece I just wanted to raise is around that car share piece. I think I know this is not within the realm of what we're deciding here, Chair, but it is a site plan consideration certainly in the future, and obviously residents are raising it. Are you open to some of that potential in the future, car share in the area where individual residents can access companies that allow for car use in the vicinity of the new building?
Sorry, I not understand the question. That You're asking about a car share on our lot or on public street? 'Cause I would
Well,
support
I
this
guess, is this something you're willing to encourage nearby the development? Obviously, right on the development would be difficult, given the layout that I've seen. But in the vicinity, it's something that would be helpful to have, I guess, some support for in that area. So is that something you're willing to? We heard the last applicant say, look, at that that's kind of a future issue, but they're willing to work on it. I'm hoping the same exists for you.
For sure. I mean, we have developments. Tavares Group does developments all over the city. You know, we talk to Common Auto. We do have Common Autos at some of our sites. There are other car share opportunities. I mean, the first thing they'll tell you is it's a business for them, and so they need density and they need a lot of users around. So, you know, buildings like this help get density to provide the financial capacity for them to provide a car in that area. So we fully encourage it to be in the area and for our residents to use it, and we're happy to do it. I encourage the city to look at utilizing on-street parking as a designated spot for car share. I think it's a great opportunity to put something in a neighborhood like that and utilize an on-street parking space that for everyone to use.
Thanks. Thanks very much. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I want to just ask quickly, because I understand, because I hear this a lot in my community too, on the issue of new developments with either no parking or fewer parking spots than there are units. You must understand the demographics, the market for a building like this that does not have parking. Can you articulate for the committee some of the different demographics or, you know, different reasons why people may be able to live in this community without a car?
Yeah, I mean, I think rental housing is for all types of people, all different economics, different stages of their life. You can have people who are young and going to university. This location is close proximity to Carleton University and well connected to it. You can jump on the LRT and be there in one stop. You're inside the middle of campus. Why would you own a car? But at the same time, you can jump on a car and head to Billings Bridge Plaza. You got Walmart, you got everything you ever need in a plaza, right? Like, so you look at the cost of owning a car, a Virtue Car Pass or a Common Auto or whatever, and sometimes the economics make sense. You're renting, you have a budget. Sometimes people look at it and say it's not worth the cost of a car to have it sit in the driveway. We're in a time where you can work remotely, you can work on site, you can get downtown LRT. People have different priorities in their life. Sometimes it's not a car. We look for those tenants. We look for people who thrive that. There's other opportunities around the city for them to find rental housing with parking. There's towers going up with huge amounts of underground parking, and they pay a premium for that. Their rental apartment's going to be probably a little more expensive than ours. Then they're going to add on $200 a month to get into that parking garage. They got taxes, insurance, gas, maintenance, repairs. It could be another $1,000 a month. People have different budgets. We're just accommodating to those people.
Okay, thank you. Let's move to questions for staff. Thank you to the applicant for your presentation. Any questions for staff on this item? Councillor Brockington?
Thanks, Jared. Just to pursue the tree matter a little further, because it was raised by staff, that is the protection of and retainment of private trees. The applicant said that the hedges in question by our second delegate are not an issue, but what type of provisions are in a site plan that force the applicant to, I'm not sure what the right verb is here, but protect, go out of their way to ensure that abutting private property trees are not impacted by construction? I think what's different is just the type of construction that we're going to see here is probably not as much of an impact as others with deep foundations. But can you just speak to the issue of trees, since it was raised by neighbors?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. With regards to the proposed development, the applicant is proposing the removal of 7 trees on the site, and they are proposing to plant 9 trees. A number of these trees are street trees, which do contribute to the urban tree canopy, and which is supported by the official plan. With respect to further on-site tree plantings, currently one is proposed on the eastern lot within the rear yard. However, each future parcel of land does include an adequate amount of space for the planting of additional trees. With respect to the removal of specific trees, if it goes above a certain diameter and height, then tree permits would be required from the city.
I want to go to protection though. So in other developments where we had foundations of the building come right up to the property line, that impacted the root zone of private trees on the other side of the fence, there were specific provisions placed on the developer to go out of their way to not just assess the trees, but protect them. Do we need to do that in this case? And if so, what are those provisions?
Mr. Chair, short answer is no, and it's important to note that the development before you is not going to go through site plan control. They're going to sever into 3 lots. Each building is 8 units, so they're exempt from site plan. What I do want to highlight though is that the plans that came in support of the zoning do show those trees, and that hedge in particular that was of a concern. It's clearly delineated on the abutting property, not the subject property that's being developed. And their plans note that contractors, and I believe it says an arborist or a landscape architect, would be on site during their construction works to make sure that property owned, such as the hedge on the neighboring property, would have to be protected. That will ultimately become a civil matter between the 2 property owners, but certainly, construction bylaws and other city bylaws would require those works to remain within the site that's being developed and not have a negative impact on abutting properties.
So just on the site plan matter, I acknowledge, I think it's nine or fewer units, as you say, don't require site plan, but how then do you address quote unquote site plan issues? Is it just covered off in the actual application that we have? How are those addressed?
Mr. Chair, depending on what items we're talking about, we certainly see what's being built through the zoning application before us. We work through some typical items that would be discussed at site plan, such as where are you putting your bicycle parking? Do you have sufficient waste storage to get city waste collection? Do you have enough landscaping on your property to meet our bylaws? Ultimately, the finer details will come through the building permit process to make sure that it's code compliant, fire separation, that sort of thing. So I would say that while not all matters that we cover through site plan would be addressed in an application of this nature, we did get into quite a good bit of detail on typical things that we would discuss and resolve through site plan.
Okay, any other questions for staff? I just wanted to note this is about a walking distance of 800 meters to Mooney's Bay LRT, 600 meters to Heron Road, to the Heron bus transitway station, pardon me, and 650 meters to Bank Street. This is maybe one of the best connected neighborhoods to rapid transit in the city. So yeah, this is at least 24 new OC Transpo customers from the get-go, I think. Anyhow, if there are any other questions then, are the report recommendations for 2409 Carlson Avenue carried?
Carried.
Carried. Thank you. Okay, thank you to staff. We have no in-camera items today. Do we have any notices of motion? Councillor Troster, you have an inquiry.
Thank you so much. The inquiry is simply, what is the status of the appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal of the Parkland Dedication Bylaw number 2022-280, and why have cash in lieu funds not been made available? Thank you.
Thank you. There's no other business, and so we are adjourned. Our next meeting is Wednesday, September 3rd. Thank you to the clerk's office and to staff for your support today. Hope everybody has a great rest of the week.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Chair.